The sound of bombs filled the air as Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen moved through the broken streets of Cathera Prime. Pieces of crystal buildings lay shattered everywhere, their once beautiful glow now dark and lifeless. Her team had already moved ahead, but something made her stop and look back. That's when she heard it, a soft whimper coming from beneath a fallen wall. Sarah raised her rifle and moved closer, her boots crunching on broken crystal. The evening sun cast long shadows across the ruins, making it hard to see clearly. "Hello," she called out softly, not wanting to draw attention from any enemy soldiers who might still be around. The whimper came again, weaker this time. Using her shoulder, Sarah pushed aside a sheet of fallen metal. What she saw made her catch her breath. A small Arthosian child lay there, her crystal-like skin cracked and dull. Usually, Arthosian skin glowed with bright colors, but this child's light was fading, a sign that she was dying. Sarah knew she should leave. Her orders were clear: no stopping during the evacuation. The Arthosians were their enemies, aliens who had attacked human colonies without warning. But looking at the child's face, Sarah couldn't see an enemy. She only saw a little girl who needed help. "Hey there, little one," Sarah whispered, kneeling down. The child's eyes opened slightly, showing fear when she saw the human soldier. Sarah remembered that Arthosians taught their children that humans were dangerous monsters. "I won't hurt you," Sarah said, reaching out slowly. "I'm here to help." Her radio crackled. "Staff Sergeant Chen, where are you?" "The last transport leaves in 10 minutes." Sarah looked at the child again. If she left her here, the girl would die alone in the rubble. The thought made Sarah's chest tight with sadness. Without thinking twice, she gently picked up the small alien child. The girl was surprisingly light, her crystal body warm against Sarah's armor. As soon as Sarah lifted her, the child passed out, her glow becoming even fainter. "I'm on my way," Sarah replied into her radio. "And I'm bringing someone with me." Running through the destroyed streets, Sarah held the child close. Explosions lit up the darkening sky behind them, but Sarah didn't look back. She knew what she was doing was against orders. She knew she could get in serious trouble, but something deep inside told her this was right. As she reached the transport ship, Sarah wrapped the child in her jacket, hiding her from view. The girl's skin had grown colder, and her glow was barely visible now. Sarah had no idea how to help an Arthosian child, but she knew she had to try. "I've got you," she whispered as she climbed aboard the ship. "You're safe now. I promise." The transport's doors closed behind them, just as another explosion rocked the city. As they lifted off, Sarah looked down at the small bundle in her arms and made a silent promise. No matter what happened next, she would protect this child, even if it meant going against everything she had been taught about the Arthosians. The medical bay was quiet when Sarah snuck in with the alien child wrapped in her jacket. Most of the medical staff were busy with human soldiers in the main area, leaving the back room empty. Sarah gently placed the girl on a bed, watching as her crystal skin grew dimmer by the minute. Dr. James Walker, the night shift doctor and Sarah's old friend from basic training, nearly dropped his tablet when he walked in and saw them. "Sarah, is that an Arthosian?" "Please, James, she's dying," Sarah whispered, standing protectively near the bed. "I couldn't leave her there." The doctor ran a hand through his gray hair, looking nervous. "Do you know what they'll do to you if they find out? We're not supposed to." A weak cry from the bed cut him off. The alien child had opened her eyes, which were the color of pale purple diamonds. She tried to move away from them, but was too weak to even lift her head. "It's okay," Sarah said softly, though she knew the child probably couldn't understand her. "We want to help." Dr. Walker sighed but moved closer with his medical scanner. "I've never treated an Arthosian before. Their biology is completely different from ours." He frowned at the readings. "Her crystal matrix is breaking down. She needs some kind of mineral supplement, but I don't know what type." The child spoke in a weak voice, using the musical language of her people. Sarah wished she could understand. The girl's fear was clear in her eyes as she looked at the human faces around her. "Can you help her?" Sarah asked. "I can try to keep her stable, but—" Dr. Walker shook his head. "Without knowing what her body needs, she won't last long." Suddenly, alarms started blaring through the ship. "Attention all personnel," a voice announced. "Random cabin checks will begin in 10 minutes. This is a standard security procedure." Sarah's heart started racing. If they found an Arthosian child in the medical bay, both she and Dr. Walker would be arrested. The girl seemed to sense their panic, her crystal skin losing even more of its glow. "Quick," Dr. Walker said, pulling out an empty supply crate. "We can hide her in here temporarily. I'll say it's sensitive medical equipment." Sarah carefully lifted the girl, who was now too weak to resist, and placed her in the crate. "I'll find out what she needs," Sarah promised. Somehow. As footsteps approached the medical bay, Dr. Walker quickly covered the crate with a sheet. Sarah stood at attention, trying to look normal as security officers entered the room. The whole time, she could hear the soft, frightened breathing of the alien child, fighting to stay alive just a few feet away. Sarah knew she had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. But looking at the hidden crate, she also knew she would do whatever it took to save this one small life, even if it meant risking everything she had worked for. Sarah checked her oxygen mask one last time before stepping out of the small shuttle. The air on Cthera Prime was still thick with smoke from the bombings. Behind her, Dr. Walker carried a medical bag, looking nervous in his borrowed combat gear. "The Arthosian Medical Center should be 2 blocks north," Sarah whispered, checking her wrist map. They had to hurry. The alien child's condition was getting worse by the hour. Moving through the ruins felt different now. Every shadow made them freeze. Every sound had them reaching for their weapons. Getting caught here would mean death or worse. The medical center stood ahead, its crystal walls cracked but still standing. "Look," Dr. Walker pointed at the ground. Fresh footprints led into the building. "We're not alone." They followed the tracks carefully, weapons ready. Inside, they found something that made Sarah's blood run cold. Dozens of small crystal beds were lined up in what looked like a children's ward. Most were empty, but some still had personal items scattered around. Toys, clothes, pictures. They left them behind, Sarah said in shock. They abandoned their own children during the evacuation. A noise from deeper in the building made them both duck behind a fallen column. Voices echoed through the halls, Arthosian soldiers. The high command was clear. One voice said in broken English, "Young ones too damaged to move quickly were to be left." They were acceptable losses. Sarah's hands tightened on her rifle. How could they talk about children like that? Dr. Walker touched her arm, pointing to a storage room nearby. The sign showed crystal symbols that matched the ones he'd seen in his medical scans. They needed to get past 3 armed Arthosian soldiers to reach it. Sarah pulled out a small sonic device, a gift from her engineer brother. "When I activate this, run for the storage room," she whispered. The device let out a high-pitched whine that made the crystal walls vibrate. The Arthosian soldiers fell to their knees, their crystal-based hearing overwhelmed by the sound. Sarah and Dr. Walker sprinted to the storage room. Inside, they quickly found what they needed: containers of glowing mineral supplements marked with children's dosage instructions. "These are what she needs," Dr. Walker said, stuffing containers into his bag. "But Sarah, what we heard." Later, Sarah cut him off, hearing shouts from outside. "We need to move." They barely made it back to their shuttle, bullets made of crystal shards flying past them. As they took off, Sarah looked down at the medical center, thinking of all the children left behind. She swore that her rescued girl wouldn't share their fate. The mineral supplements glowed in Dr. Walker's bag, offering hope. Now they just had to make it back to the ship alive. The alien child's skin glowed brighter now, thanks to the mineral supplements. Dr. Walker had learned her name was Loreth when she finally felt strong enough to communicate through the ship's basic translator. Sarah sat beside her bed, watching as Ulreth drew pictures on a tablet. Human ship's different, Ulreth said in broken English, pointing at her drawing of crystal-shaped vessels. Not ugly like elders say. Sarah smiled, but it faded when the medical bay doors slid open. Captain Rogers walked in with 2 security officers. Staff Sergeant Chen, he said coldly. Intelligence wants to speak with the Arthosian child. She might have valuable information about enemy positions. Ulreth grabbed Sarah's arm, her crystal skin pulsing with fear colors. Sarah stood up, placing herself between the child and the officers. Sir, she's just a child. She doesn't know anything about military matters. That's not your call to make, Sergeant. The captain's voice hardened. Step aside. Before Sarah could argue further, another group burst into the medical bay. Rescued Arthosian civilians who had been picked up from a damaged transport. Their leader, a tall female with deep blue crystal skin, pointed accusingly at Sarah. See, humans corrupt our young. She shouted in perfect English. They poison her mind with their primitive ideas. Ulreth's grip on Sarah's arm tightened. No. Sarah good. Sarah save me when others leave. The Arthosian leader's crystal skin flashed angry red. You speak their language now. They have already damaged you. Come with us, child. We will fix what they have done. She's not going anywhere, Sarah said firmly. Not until she's fully healed. The room crackled with tension. Human officers on one side wanted to use Ulreth for intelligence. Arthosian civilians on the other side wanted to take her away. But all Sarah could think about were the empty beds in that hospital, and how adults from both sides seemed to care more about their war than their children. Ulreth stays here, Dr. Walker spoke up, surprising everyone. Medical authority. She's still my patient. Captain Rogers looked like he wanted to argue, but even he couldn't override medical protocols. The Arthosian leader stormed out, muttering about human barbarians. Later that night, as Sarah read Ulreth the story, the child looked up with her crystal eyes glowing softly. Why they all angry? Sometimes, Sarah said carefully, grown-ups forget what's really important. They get so caught up in being different that they forget how to be kind. Ulreth nodded, her crystal skin showing patterns of understanding. You not forget, Sarah. You remember kind. Sarah hugged the little alien girl, knowing that tomorrow would bring more challenges. But for now, in this quiet moment, she knew she had made the right choice. Sarah woke up to Ulreth's scared screams. The child's crystal skin was flashing with bright colors, something Sarah had never seen before. It's okay, you're safe, Sarah said, rushing to her bed. But Ulreth wasn't having a normal nightmare. Bad people, Ulreth said, her voice shaking. In my memories. They'd make war happen. Dr. Walker ran some scans and made an amazing discovery. Sarah, her crystal structure doesn't just store life energy. It records everything around her, like a living camera. The trauma of almost dying made these memories surface. They watched in wonder as Ulreth's skin projected dim images, like a broken movie. In them, strange figures in black suits met with both human and Arthosian leaders before the war. Give them false attack reports, one figure said. Make each side think the other struck first. The war will destroy them both, and will take their worlds. Ulreth cried as the images played. They hurt everyone. Make my people hate humans. Make humans hate my people. Sarah's mind raced. A third group had tricked both sides into war. They had used everyone's fear and prejudice against each other. And now, an innocent child held the proof in her own body. We have to tell someone, Sarah said, but Dr. Walker grabbed her arm. Think carefully, he warned. These people are powerful enough to start a war between two species. They'll kill to keep this secret. My people must know truth, Ulreth said, her crystal skin glowing with determination. Human people, too. No more hate. Sarah hugged Ulreth close. We'll tell them. But we have to be smart about it. She looked at the child's glowing skin, thinking hard. Your people record important things in crystals. Right. Ulreth nodded. big crystals in leader rooms. Show everyone at same time. Then that's what we'll do, Sarah said. We'll show everyone the truth. Together. As they made plans, Sarah watched Loreth practice controlling her memory projections. The child who had nearly died in the ruins now held the power to stop a war. But first, they had to find a way to share the truth without getting killed. The real enemy was still out there, and Sarah knew they wouldn't give up their plan easily. Sarah stood before the joint council of human and Arthosian leaders on the neutral space station. Loreth held her hand tightly, the child's crystal skin glowing with nervous energy. "What you're saying is impossible," the human admiral growled. "No outside force could have manipulated us so easily." The Arthosian High Elder's skin flashed with doubt colors. "Why should we trust a human soldier and a damaged child?" "Show them," Sarah whispered to Loreth, "just like we practiced." Loreth stepped forward, her small crystal body beginning to shine brighter. The memories projected from her skin, clearer now after days of practice. The dark-suited figures appeared, their secret meetings playing out for all to see. "The humans will believe Outpost 7 was attacked first," one figure said in the memory. Then it switched to another meeting. "The Arthosians will think their medical ships were targeted." The council chamber fell silent. Both sides recognized their own leaders being handed the false reports that had started the war. A young Arthosian commander stood up, his crystal skin glowing with truth colors. "The child's memories cannot lie. Our crystalline structure records only what truly happens." "This changes nothing," a human general said, but others were shaking their heads. "It changes everything," the Arthosian commander replied. "Look at them, a human soldier and an Arthosian child. If they can trust each other, why can't we?" More leaders from both sides began to speak up, sharing stories of doubts they'd had about the war's beginning. Sarah felt hope rising until she noticed movement in the shadows. 3 figures in black suits slipped into the chamber. Sarah recognized their uniforms from Loreth's memories. One reached for something in his jacket. "Get down," Sarah shouted, pulling Loreth behind a crystal pillar as shots rang out. But instead of chaos, something amazing happened. Human and Arthosian guards moved together, protecting the council. The young Arthosian commander fought back-to-back with a human security officer. Working together, they quickly captured the attackers. "You see," Loreth said loudly, her voice carrying in the sudden quiet. "Together strong, apart easy to trick." Looking at the caught infiltrators, the leaders couldn't argue anymore. The truth was right in front of them, along with proof that they could work together. Sarah hugged Loreth close, knowing they had just changed history. But she also knew some people would still resist this change, and they weren't safe yet. The ancient Arthosian temple glowed with faint blue light as Sarah and Loreth ran inside. Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed through the crystal corridors. The hardliners from both sides had joined forces, not to make peace, but to silence the truth. "The broadcast chamber is ahead," Sarah said, checking her tablet map. They had to reach the temple's crystal core, which could amplify Loreth's memories across all communication channels. Loreth touched the temple walls, her skin beginning to glow in sync with them. "Temple remembers, Sarah. Old memories here." A shot hit the wall near them, sending crystal shards flying. Sarah pulled Loreth behind a massive crystal column. 6 attackers, 3 human, 3 Arthosian, moved into view, weapons ready. "Give up the child," one human called out. "Some truths should stay buried." "No more hiding," Loreth said firmly. Her small hand pressed against the temple wall again, and something amazing happened. The temple's crystals began pulsing with light, matching Loreth's glow. Ancient memories stored in the walls started playing around them. Images of humans and Arthosians working together, trading, helping each other, all from before the mysterious figures started their plan. The attackers hesitated, surrounded by proof of a better past. Sarah used this moment to get Loreth to the broadcast chamber. The child climbed onto the central platform, her crystal skin shining brighter than ever. Everyone must see, Ulreth said. She touched the giant crystal in the chamber center, and her memories began flowing into it. The temple hummed with power. The attackers burst in, but it was too late. Ulreth's memories of the dark-suited figures, the lies, and the truth spread through every crystal communication device on both human and Arthosian worlds. "You can't stop the truth now," Sarah said, standing protectively in front of Ulreth. To her surprise, the attackers lowered their weapons, their faces showing shame as they watched the memories play. The temple's glow grew stronger, powered by Ulreth's determination to bring peace. In that light, Sarah saw tears on the faces of both humans and Arthosians as they realized how they'd been deceived. 1 year later, Sarah watched Ulreth pack her school bag. The child's crystal skin glowed with happy colors, matching the sunrise outside their home on the new joint colony. "Ready for first day?" Sarah asked, adjusting Ulreth's translator pendant. After the temple broadcast, both governments had worked to create this settlement where humans and Arthosians could live together. "Ready," Ulreth said in perfect English. Her crystal skin flashed with excitement patterns. "Teacher says I help new students understand each other." Sarah smiled, remembering how far they'd come. The adoption papers on her wall were the first of their kind, allowing a human to legally become an Arthosian child's guardian. It hadn't been easy, but their story had helped change many minds. At school, Ulreth ran to join her mixed group of friends. Human children played alongside Arthosian ones, neither group caring about the differences that had once caused so much hate. Sergeant Chen called the Arthosian school director, her crystal skin glowing with respect colors. Ulreth's memory-sharing lessons have been very successful. The children learned from her recordings of both cultures. Sarah watched through the classroom window as Ulreth showed her friends a happy memory, her skin projecting images of both human and Arthosian festivals. The children sat together, amazed by the beautiful differences between their peoples. "The ones who started the war were caught last week," the director said quietly. "Thanks to evidence found in Ulreth's memories, they'll never hurt anyone again." Later that evening, Sarah and Ulreth sat on their balcony, watching the twin suns set. Human buildings of steel and glass stood next to Arthosian crystal towers, creating a beautiful mix of both worlds. "Sarah," Ulreth said, her crystal skin glowing softly, "remember when you found me?" "Of course, little one. You not know if I live or die, but you try save me anyway." Ulreth hugged her human mother. "That most important lesson for everyone. Not where we from that matters, just what we choose to." Sarah held her daughter close, knowing that sometimes the biggest changes start with the smallest acts of kindness. The war that had nearly killed Ulreth had led to a peace stronger than anyone could have imagined. And it all began because one human soldier refused to walk away from a dying alien child.